5-minute countdown?
It's not 5 minutes. Shh.
Whole sports all plays. Yeah. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. 365, we making up plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. Whole sports all plays. Yeah.
What's going on, everybody? This is the All Sports All Plays Network. We got some breaking news. My name is Freddie Henderson, joined by my brother Joe. What's going on, Joe?
Oh, there's a lot going on, Freddie, but I think you want to address it first.
I'll tell you this much. After the day, I'm not a Giants fan no more. New York, you made me do this. New York Giants. New York Giants, I'm done with you. Good riddance. You do not deserve nobody to root for your franchise. It's already bad enough that we got to root for the trash that you put on the field that don't translate to wins. It's already bad enough. But you going to do some blasphemy stuff like this? You
Freddie,
going to do some stuff like this? Dustin, my new team will be delivered when I'm done with this, sir, on this live feed. So stay tuned, everybody. I'm going to announce who I'm rooting for.
okay, Freddie, before you go too far, do you want to lay out what all this is about? Because I'm pretty sure it's not the Brian Dable hiring.
No. I like the hiring. Okay, I did. But not before I knew this. Not until I know what this is about. Did you want to read it? Do you want me to read it?
Well, I'll give everybody kind of the nuts and bolts of it. Brian Flores, obviously the ex-head coach of the Miami Dolphins, former defensive coordinator of the New England Patriots, has filed a lawsuit against the NFL, the New York Giants, who play in New Jersey, and the Denver Broncos for and I'm sorry, the Dolphins also for racism and hiring prejudices. Basically, he came out and threw grenades at everybody, and he has alleged, I say alleged because we don't know yet, text messages between him and Bill Belichick congratulating him on getting the Giants job, which he in fact did not get because he sent them to the wrong Brian. Some of the notes in the lawsuit are that Stephen Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, offered Flores a $100,000 bonus every game he lost in 2019 because they wanted a high draft pick, and was frustrated when the team won. If you remember, that was the tanking for Tua season, and they ended up getting the 5th pick in the draft, also getting Tua. So I'm not sure what that one was about. And apparently there was a meeting on a yacht with a high-profile quarterback. A lot of people think it was Deshaun Watson. Flores has alleged that the Broncos staff, including John Elway, when they interviewed him in 2019, came to the meeting visibly hungover and really disinterested in the meeting, not giving him a fair shake. Again, the text messages from Belichick basically congratulate Flores on getting the job 3 days before his interview, and he meant to send it to Brian Dable, which basically said that the Giants were locked in with Dable and were just doing the interview for whatever reason. Yeah, I mean, Freddie, this whole story is crazy, but I think the one thing we have to worry about here is who the actual bad guys are and who were just people caught up in the story. So to you, who are the bad guys in this story?
It's the New York Giants. Why? Why are we finding ourselves in a situation like this where we can't even win football games, Joe? Why? I mean, are we seeking attention? I mean, is this what we're doing? This
But
is something that I expect out of the Dallas Cowboys, not out of the Giants, not out of the Mara family. I do not expect this out of the Mara family. Well, maybe
Freddie,
I should expect this. I mean, maybe
well,
I
see,
should.
Yeah, now hold on, because that's something I wanted to talk about. Remember, John Mara is the same guy who talked about the peaceful protests, the kneeling and stuff like that. And basically, when there was a talk of signing Kaepernick, he said that he was getting letters all the time about how it was a distraction and all this stuff. So Mara kind of is on that teetering line of like, are we sure that he doesn't have some of the same feelings as like Jerry Jones and some of those other people? He just hides it better. I mean, let's not be overly shocked that the Mara family oversees an organization like this. Hi, Mike.
What's up,
Hi, Joe.
Mike, I'm mad. Mike, I'm done with the Giants, bro. I'm done. I'm tired. I'm not rooting for this team no more. I'm done rocking the big blue. You know, as much as it hurts me, because I'm just tired of like we're already bad on the field, and you causing this type of attention to you as a franchise and what you represent. This is what it tells me is this is what you stand for. This is what you represent your franchise by.
Right.
I'm done with it. I'm not doing that, bro.
I am not going to sit here on live whatever and pretend like I know the full story and know its understanding. I'm still reading it as we're talking right now. From what you could tell me where I'm wrong or if there's more to it, but from what I'm understanding is the Giants were going to interview Brian Flores, and then they hired Dable before they even interviewed Flores. Is that it?
No, Bill Belichick sent a text message to Brian Flores congratulating him on getting the Giants job. And Flores texts back like, "Oh, really? Like, I didn't know they were that serious. Like, I'm getting ready for the interview." And then Belichick kind of pieces it together and realizes he meant to send that text message to Brian Dable. So this was 3 days before Flores was going in for his interview. So basically, Flores now goes into the interview knowing that unless a miracle happens, he doesn't have the job. He doesn't have a legitimate shot at the job. They're just bringing him in for whatever reason. Because, again, people talk about the Rooney Rule and stuff, but if I'm not mistaken, one of the first people to interview for the Giants job was their defensive coordinator, Patrick Graham, who is black and who's a finalist for the Minnesota job. So I think that's another thing where, Freddie, I understand and I get where people are really mad about this. I do not like the Mara family, but I'm not sure because Flores was not the quote-unquote Rooney person. That would have been Patrick Graham. So why they were bringing Flores in, I think it had to do with maybe they wanted to have him be a defensive coordinator. Maybe they want, with him and Dable working together, maybe they interview him for the head coach and say, "Brian, we love your energy. We love what you do. We'd really, really like to have you on as defensive coordinator." Maybe that's naive of me. Maybe it's not. But it obviously didn't sit well with Flores because when you file lawsuit, as we know with Tom Brady, we know with other people, when you file a lawsuit against the NFL, it's serious.
Now, my thing is more why in the hell did Bill even know about Brian Dable getting the job? That's where I'm kind of confused on the
whole thing. It's a boys' club.
Right. It's a boys' club. No, like that's where it's like you should, as the Morrow family, like keep your mouth shut about shit like that. Like that's where they messed up.
Let's not forget Bill Belichick. He earned his reputation by being the defensive coordinator in the Giants. The Giants is actually his dream job. He knows people in that building. I'm not sure that this came from Dable because he's congratulating Dable. He got this from the Giants. Right. Somebody in the Giants organization let it slip to Bill Belichick, or you hear things through the grapevine. That's how. Dable didn't know.
I mean, I'm happy Bill knows how to text. I didn't know Bill knew how to text people. I didn't know Bill knew how phones worked. I'm shocked. I need to see the texts. I need to see how Bill Belichick texts. It's very. I doubt
how he talks.
I want to know. Does Bill use emojis? In all seriousness, like I need to know. Like it shocked me to see that Bill Belichick is out here texting people. But Freddie, I'll say this. You know where I have a problem with it. I believe a lot of guys get blackballed in this league because of the color of their skin. And I truly stand by that. I make it clear with Ray and everybody else I've talked to about this, that it's a problem in this league. My biggest thing right now is I don't believe that the Miami Dolphins should be involved in this. And my biggest reasoning for that is I look at what happened with Mitchell Trubisky and Matt Nagy. Now, Brian Flores, Joe, me and you have talked about this all the time, and I hate tying it into the Bears, but it's actually a perfect example. of Brian Flores screaming to the front office that Tua is not their guy. I don't want to work with Tua. I don't want to work with Tua. I'd rather have Watson. Rightfully so. Tua is not great. Here's the thing. For that front office to take the chance that they did on Tua, you need to bring in an offensive mind to not only be able to groom him, but someone who's going to support him and believe in him. Where the Bears messed up was keeping Matt Nagy knowing that he hated Mitchell Trubisky, knowing that he didn't want to help develop Mitchell Trubisky. And that's why we're where we are right now, is where we don't have a GM, we don't have a front office, we don't have a head coach or a quarterback that was the same. So you have to look at it like that and understand, one, you're a defensive coordinator and you need an offensive-minded guy to develop this kid. And that's no fault of Brian. Brian's great with offense too, but he's great with proven guys. If you give Brian Flores, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, or Deshaun Watson, I think he's going to flourish. If you give him some experiment of some kid who has a broken hip at the age of 21, like my 89-year-old grandma, and he can't read a lick of shit for a defense, that's where I think you have a problem and you need to move on. I don't think Miami blackballed him. I think Brian just was a little bit too pushy about the I hate Tua thing way too early. And they watched what happened with the Bears. They've watched what happened with other organizations who have failed to do the same thing, and they moved on from it. And I think that's where you're truly going to see, if Tua fails with this offensive mind, whatever offensive-minded guy they bring, whether it be Harbaugh or whoever, then you're going to see the GM be fired and Tua be moved.
That's all fair. Somebody brought up in the comments before you go, Freddie, Jerry Reese was the GM of this team for 12 years. So it's not like they've never had people of color in positions of power. I again, the Rooney stuff, that's a whole other discussion. I think what Flores is saying, though, is
what he's saying is valid.
Is absolutely valid. But Mike, one thing, because Freddie, I know you're a smoldering volcano. I know you're ready to go. With the Miami stuff, he's not necessarily claiming racism in Miami. He's claiming that the owner bribed him $100,000 per loss.
Right, and that was my thing, though, that's where I wanted to fix the narrative on it, is when you hear, he's suing them about racism with Miami, Broncos, and the Giants. You need to understand he's suing Miami for a different reason.
Yes.
It's not a racism reason. That's where I was standing. Now, Nathaniel Hackett, like I said, getting a job before Eric Bieniemy and Brian Flores is ridiculous. And that's, to me, where it's like, and Jim Caldwell, I'll throw in a name as well. It's someone to where how Nathaniel Hackett, fired by the Jaguars, who won 2 games, couldn't win a lick of shit. This kid gets a job for nothing before Caldwell, before Bieniemy, before Flores, before so on and so forth. It's a mess.
Morris. Now, I just did see in the lawsuit against Denver, he's suing Denver and Elway. He is saying that they appeared disheveled, they appeared hungover, and that they were basically filling their quota for the Rooney Rule. Right. So that specifically, at least in the Denver instance, is talked about. Again, I think what Flores is doing is he's casting a big net towards the league and hoping to catch as many fish as he can. Because, again, are we surprised that the NFL has racist hiring practices? No. Do we know it's an issue? Yes. What can be done about it? Well, again, not comparing the two. Colin Kaepernick took a stand, agree, disagree, whatever. He lost his career because of it. Brian Flores is well aware that by suing the league and these teams, he's ending his coaching career, and he acknowledged that in the statement. Freddie.
Before I give my new team, I want to read a statement by Brian Flores real quick. This is what he released. God has gifted me with a special talent to coach the game of football, but the need for change is bigger than my personal goal. And making the decision to file the class action complaint today. I understand that I may be risking the coaching of the game that I love, and that has done so much for me and my family. My sincere hope is that by standing up against systemic racism in the NFL, others will join me to ensure that positive change is made for generations to come.
Right.
This is no... and it makes it so worse is just that, we're coming off of a year where Black Lives Matter and all that stuff was so big.
Right.
You know, and us as people, we have to be better.
Right.
Our mindset have to be better. Our heart have to be better. How we talk, how we walk, how we think, it has to be better. And this just shows us that owners that has a lot of money, where their mindset is still at today.
Right.
So when I said, should I be surprised? No, I shouldn't be surprised. Because we're still going through it. And you know what? Yoel came up here and said, Freddie, it is embarrassing for the franchise. Yes. It is hard to support this franchise. Yes. Will I stop rooting for them? No. But you know what, my brother? You don't have to. But you know what? I am. Today, I'm no longer associated with the Giants. I'm no longer associated with New York. I'm done. Good riddance. Goodbye. I will now root. I'm rooting for my team that I was born, the city I was born in. I'm rooting for the team where I'm from. It's nothing to do with them because they go into the Super Bowl or anything like that.
Oh man, bro, that's ugly, man. That's ugly, man.
It has nothing to do with it. I'm from California.
But you live in Texas.
Live in Texas, but I'm born in California.
You live in Texas.
What other team in Texas can I root for?
That Texas.
Houston Texans.
I'm not rooting for no Texans. No. I am a Los Angeles Rams fan as of today. I just can't root for an organization, man. But just because that tells me
That's some bullshit.
it tells me you can believe in that stuff like that.
I believe in what you're saying and why you're leaving. You know, as a black man, you have every right to, especially in a situation like this, have every right to say, you know, if they're not giving, you know, them a fair shot, even as a white man myself, I wouldn't want to be a part of that. If I found out listen, man, it don't even got to be about racism. If I find out a single thing, if I find out George McCaskey wears pink underwear, I'll leave. Like that's just how far I am in with the Bears right now. I'll leave for whatever. But you're leaving for a viable reason. Now the team you're going to, sir, you're an asshole, Freddie.
Hold on. Wait, Mike, you sound like somebody who's married and walks around with divorce papers. I tell you, she says one thing, I'm going to divorce her.
I swear to God, I will.
No, that's my whole team, Mike.
Go on. Listen, okay, Freddie, I have a question because obviously you're talking to two pasty faces here. Like, let's not pretend who's talking to who here and all this stuff. What, to you, if you had to pick one thing from everything in the again, it's very early in the process. We don't know everything. What is the one thing specifically? It doesn't even have to be affiliated with the Giants. What's the one thing in all of his lawsuit that really just gets at your core? What's the one thing that is the first time you read it, you're just like,
right.
What?
Mine is like, Denver. Mine is Denver.
Mine is the fact that the Giants interviewed this guy knowing that they wasn't going to hire him.
I don't know.
I get that.
What's the point? Why waste time?
Here's my thing. The Bears, when we interviewed Jim Harbaugh, when we interviewed Jim Caldwell, when we interviewed Flores and everybody else, Brian Dable, they interviewed him over a StreamYard, over a Zoom call. Like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, why even interview them if you're not going to pick them? But at the end of the day, you need to interview everybody in order to show your fan base you're doing something. Like you're looking at every single option and you're not leaving one stone left unturned, I should say. But it's something to me to where not to be bogus on Brian, but it's the same thing about Miami with Daniel Jones. You can't have a defensive coordinator go in and try to fix that offense because you need someone like Dable who, you know, you saw what he did with Josh Allen. So or even Eric Bieniemy or Caldwell, like that's fine. Brian, to me, isn't that guy. Now, if they did that to Jim Caldwell or they did that to Bieniemy, I'd say there's a viable reason to show that that's a racist hire. But it's something to me to where Brian, as a defensive coordinator, of course they just interviewed him just to interview him. He's available. Why not? But I think to hire somebody before the interview is just where it's more unprofessional than I feel like it is about racism.
Yeah, Dustin, if Dustin's listening, I want him to fact check me on this. But part of the reason that you interview so many people, and I'm more okay with a franchise interviewing 20 people, interview everybody. Because if you go back to the Pittsburgh Steelers, they were going to hire, I believe it was Mike Munchak, the offensive line coach, whenever Bill Cowher left. Like he was going to be the guy, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was Munchak. But basically, Tomlin was a defensive backs coach for Minnesota and comes in and interviews, and the Roonies are just like, wow, this guy is Steeler football. This guy is the real deal, and we're going to hire him. So kind of like Mike said, you want to uncover every stone, even if it's people you're not familiar with or that, the quote unquote important people think aren't ready. You never know. I mean, look at it. Retread coaches go to the Super Bowl and win. Guys get fired. They come back. They're more successful the second time. I mean, again, it is really, really easy to blanket this and everything is racist because I think it's true a lot of the times.
Big part of it is.
But the thing that you have to worry about in this is, I think, again, I'm not trying to put words into the lawsuit's mouth. I think the biggest issue that he has, and again, racism is prevalent throughout the NFL, is you need to start. It says you only have to interview a minimum of 2 or 3 minority coaches per head coaching opening. Flores was only interviewed by the Giants to fill that quota. Okay, maybe that's true. Like I said, I know Patrick Graham was.
That's BS. Joe. I mean, this Rooney Rule where you have to do like this don't solve anything. They don't solve anything because you mean to tell me that as long as I interview you, I don't have to hire you. But I do have to interview so I won't get fined. That's BS. That still has not fixed the problem. To me, it hasn't.
No, it definitely hasn't. But it's definitely something to where, they have to interview a certain amount of people in order to get hired, and in order to hire someone. And if they found their guy and they just need to interview one more person before they can hire him, then I would rather interview Brian Flores just to see if there's a shot that this might work, rather than interview some random guy like Nathaniel Hackett. Like that's just the reality of the situation. So out of the three, obviously, if there is validity to, the Miami ownership doing what they did, that's ridiculous. And that's a conversation in its own. But I'm not sitting here and I'm not going to say, what Brian Flores is saying is wrong. But I think he's suing a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. And I just think he's kind of hoping one of them sticks. And I'm hoping that one of them sticks too. And it's the racism one. Like the one, if you're getting paid to lose, like, I mean, you did a great job, Brian. You lost 7 straight. That's good job. But you know what I mean? But that's $700,000. But it's definitely a race thing. To Robert's point too, he made a comment. When I look at what Elway did and when I look at what others did, I saw one guy make a comment saying, I've never seen Elway sober ever. So I don't know, and that's valid, but it comes to the point to where it's like, again, why was Nathaniel Hackett hired over Bieniemy, Caldwell, Flores, and so on and so forth? It makes zero sense to me. Now, Miami, that's a whole different, the money thing, that has nothing to do with race. That's just weird. Like that's just something that's childish. That's childish.
Yeah, I mean, this is just.
Yeah, somebody brought up it was Russ Grimm. It wasn't Mike Munchak. It was Russ Grimm who was the finalist in Pittsburgh. Again, I'm not saying that there's not racism. Somebody had commented that in the chat that how could it not be? I'm not debating whether there's racism. Clearly, Dustin brought up the point that D'Amico Ryans, Raheem Morris, and Eric Bieniemy interviewed for Minnesota. Now, D'Amico Ryans did pull his name out. So I do know that Raheem Morris at least is a finalist according to reports. Patrick Graham, and I think there was one other name. I can't remember who it was at the moment. Well, there was 4 names. It was Harbaugh, Patrick Graham, Raheem Morris, and somebody else. Maybe it was Bieniemy, but 2 if you count leverage. Again, like the problem is, and this is the uncomfortable conversation that nobody wants to have and that people have talked about for years. A majority of the owners are white. And of those majority white owners, most of them are conservative leaning. I'm not talking about politics. I don't want to bring that in, but like these are people just predominantly the way that they think because they've been on record. We know Dan Snyder, we know Jerry Jones, we know a lot of these families are more reserved and conservative. They are not going to feel comfortable putting people that they're not comfortable with in charge of billion-dollar industries. Now, the problem is they don't know who is good or not. We don't. It's not comparing. It's podcasting. Freddie, you reach out and get people all the time. You have no idea how they're going to be when they come on. No idea at all. You can look at them. You can even hear them talk, but you don't know how they're going to act whenever they get in front of a mic, whenever they get in front of a screen. You just don't. And you're willing to take that chance because if it comes down to it, you can just say, hey, you can't come on anymore. Owners don't want to do that because they say, hey, now I got to pay a guy $20 million for a job he ain't even going to do anymore because coaching salaries are guaranteed. Like, that's not players. Guys walk away with money all the time because they get fired. And the issue is you don't have people in position. Now, we have seen some more over the last couple of years. George Patton going to Denver. He is a minority. We saw who was the guy in Detroit? I'm trying to think of the GM for Detroit that got hired last year. I believe it was. Dustin.
I don't pay too much attention about what goes on in Detroit.
But I'm saying, like, you are starting to see a little bit more. But the problem is, too, again, it's talked about in the coaching ranks. I'm just going to say both Jerry Jones and Robert Kraft contributed over $1 million each to the Trump campaign. So did Shad Khan. And Shad Khan is one of the minority owners in the league. So, I mean, again, it goes across black and white and minority and stuff like that. Again, you have McCaskey in Chicago, who's a woman. You know, granted, she's what, 90-something years, 80-something years old, 90-something years old. Yeah. And she's a woman, but we don't talk about her when it comes to minority. But that's a different argument. But Freddie, I want to ask you this. What does the Mara family have to do? You said you're done with the Giants. I'm not asking for them to call you and to bring you back into the family. What I'm saying is Mara and them are going to address this. What do you want them to say?
Is there anything they can say?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think there's anything they can say.
I don't. There's really nothing you can say about the situation.
That's what I'm saying. At this point, this is what I'm saying. This Rooney Rule, man, this is all it is. They knew they needed one more person, African American, to interview. They knew they wasn't going to hire Flores. They already knew it.
Can I, Freddie, really quick though? I'm kind of like, I'm just misinformed about it. Did they even interview him?
Yes,
yes. Because I thought what I read was, from the ASAP chat, it was like they hired Dable a day before they were going to interview. What's his face?
No, they end up when Flores ended up coming down there to interview
Flores. I don't know why that.
They interviewed him, but the thing is, they already had Dable as their coach.
Okay, so it was basically an unspoken congratulations.
Exactly.
That's where the Bill Belichick text message comes in, because
that's why I was confused on like what's going on. But that makes sense.
Yeah,
so there's nothing that the Mara family can say that you're just going to be like, okay, I see the point.
No, I think this starts with Roger Goodell and the front office of them doing this with this Rooney Rule.
Right.
Because if you're putting guidelines on there saying, okay, you have to interview this many minority coaches, you won't get fined. Okay, so that's where it stops, because that's where it's tacky. That's where it's tacky, and then that's where it becomes a problem.
You're right, Freddie, but here's the issue. If not for the Rooney Rule, Brian Flores, Patrick Graham, Eric Bieniemy, Raheem Morris don't get a lot of these interviews,
right?
Because they're not required to sit in front of them.
Right.
I mean, we have one black.
Something need to be worse. They're getting interviews, but it's not turning into jobs.
Right. The idea of the rule, I feel like personally, just screams racism to me. It is because you're saying there is racism within this league, so we're making this rule to make it stop. But at the end of the day, you still have racism within this league. They just have to interview you now and allow you. It reminds me a lot of Remember the Titans. Remember?
Agreed, Dustin.
Yeah, no, exactly. But that's my big thing right now. When I think about Miami, okay, if you want to pay guys to lose, I could give a shit. When you look about this, what's going on in New York, like, okay, I understand you wanted Dable, but you had to interview him. Like, it is what it is. It's a bad look, but it is what it is. But Nathaniel Hackett, that's just ridiculous to me. But back to what we were saying, if you remember watching, Remember the Titans, which is one of my favorite movies. I watch it all the time. But it's something to where, these guys had the room with each other. You had the room with someone that was colored. You had to be in that same facility with them that entirety of that camp. But that doesn't mean they wanted the room with each other. Now, that they did that because there is racism within the team. And the problem with that is you can force everybody to, like you said, room together, or in this case, interview people. But that doesn't change the fact that there's racism within this league. And I think that's what Freddie's trying to say is it starts with Goodell, because you need to get those bad apples out. All these emails that we've been seeing with Gruden and so many others.
Being done about it.
Goodell reads every single email that goes through. His people reads every single email that goes through because it's a business. And at the end of the day, you're using your business email. We can read everything and you don't say a word. That's where it's like, to me, at the end of the day, Joe, like, that's where I say it screams to me. It starts at the top of the top, not just these owners. Now with the Giants, Freddie, I hear you. It's messed up. It's a shame. And it's something to where it's like, you understand what it was at the end of the day, and it's a shame that it happened. To me, though, if you did think Dable was your guy, and the only way you could legally hire him throughout the NFL was to interview one final coach, I understand it to that magnitude. But now, like I said earlier, I'm not screaming that I agree with what they did. To tell everybody that you're hiring Dable to the point to where Bill Belichick knows that you're hiring Dable, that's where you're a joke. And that's where it's a horrible look.
Yeah. But that's the old school way. Let's not forget, if not for the Rooney Rule, as flawed as the Rooney Rule is, again, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I believe that there should be parameters around the league and throughout organizations that help disenfranchise people who are minorities, whether it be women. Robert Saleh is Middle Eastern, things of this sort. They should absolutely get opportunities. But if not before Freddie, Dable's just the guy. They don't even have to interview anybody else. They just interview Dable, and he's the guy. You never have these other interviews. There's a great clip going around of John Thompson, the legendary college basketball coach. He goes, I'm sick and tired of people pointing to people like me or, Tubby Smith and coaches like that and talk about how great they are and anybody can do it. He goes, black coaches are not afforded the same mediocrity that white coaches are.
Right.
Again, we'll use Nathaniel Hackett as an example. The guy did not call plays in Green Bay. Now, Aaron Rodgers, Freddie's favorite quarterback, swears by Nathaniel Hackett and loves him and says that he should have gotten a job. Whether that carries weight or not, we'll see. But
I've seen Andy Reid do the same thing about Matt Nagy. So
absolutely, and Doug Peterson and people like that. And then Reid comes out and says, "Hey, Eric calls plays." But what I'm saying is he basically said, "Listen, black coaches are not afforded. Like, they don't get to learn on the job training. Like, they don't." And remember, we're just coming off. We're only a few head coaches away from the Super Bowl representative Cincinnati Bengals. People making fun of Cincinnati for holding on to Marvin Lewis so long because he was just an above-average coach. Shouldn't Cincinnati be kind of commended for that because they had a coach who won? I mean, granted, he didn't get them far in the playoffs. They were he was the Jeff Fisher of minority coaching, I've heard, stuff like this. But again, he's a guy that was there for a very long time, and he was a running joke throughout the league. It doesn't look so bad now, does it?
Right. And Ray hit a good point about Houston, which I guess is another excuse to why Freddie doesn't want to rock with Houston. But
David Culley,
he just wants to be a Rams fan. But it's definitely something like I look at. And to touch on something that Joe said earlier, Packers would have won 2 Super Bowls now if they hired him. Yeah, okay. You just put down the crack pipe. But it's definitely something to where we have to look at it, though, and for what it is. Even with Virginia McCaskey, like she's a woman. She's an owner and she's a woman. She is, but she's 99 and she is not in charge anymore. And
she don't run.
Yeah. Like, she's not. Like, the owner of the Chicago Bears is George McCaskey. That's just the reality of it. I love Virginia. She is the face of ownership, but she does not do anything in part of that. It's a Ted Phillips and that whole shit show of white individuals that don't know a single thing what they're doing. Now, my thing about Elway, I'm curious. I'm really curious. I'm curious if we can get the audio to those interviews to what's going on with that, because if you say he was intoxicated as he was, I would love to see an image, of a security tape camera of how he presented himself, how he looked, or what he was saying, how intoxicated did he truly look? Is there validity to that? And if there is, that's something you need to address throughout the league. Because one, I was shocked when I read that. And not because I was like, oh my God, Elway's an amazing person. No, Elway's been drunk. He's been a drunk for a very long. He believes in Drew Lock. Like, that's all I needed to know. But at the end of the day, I didn't even know Elway was still a part of operations. I thought they had Elway step back over a year ago, and I don't know why he was even a part of that hiring process.
This was in 2019. Don't forget, they just hired George Patton last year. So Elway was
so
still.
It was in 2019.
It was when Flores was going for the coaching jobs.
I thought it was recent. That's why I'm like, Joe. I'm learning as I go along.
No, this was according to the lawsuit. This was in 2019.
Right.
So this was during that. Freddie, I have a question for you. Other than Odell Beckham Jr. and anybody on offense, can you name 3 players on your new favorite team?
You got Jefferson, you got Higbee, you got Cup, hey, you got Akers at the running back position. Hey, bro, hey, I'm from California.
Didn't I say nobody on the offense? Didn't I just say, like, you can't name the guy who just won the Triple Crown in receiving as one of the people? Come on.
I thought he said offense. My bad. I thought he said Odell Beckham Jr. So, hey, I was born in California.
Why aren't you a Chargers fan?
I thought about it, but Tony, I'm gonna give credit to Tony. Tony helped me pick the team, and I was gonna choose the Chargers, but he said, "Yeah, it's like the Clippers out of LA." I'm like, yeah.
How about the Niners?
Yeah. That's San Francisco, though. They're not in California. I mean, that's San Francisco. So,
Freddie, did you go to geography class? Do you own a map?
It's not California, it's San Francisco. I mean, it's close. It's connected, but it's it's a difference from Joe.
Yeah, stop. Don't do
Okay.
this.
You know what? If we're going by that logic, you are now a Raiders fan because when you were born, they
I
played
will not
in California.
No.
I'm rocking with your decision though, and I respect you for it. Just like Ray is saying, like I give you credibility because I have a hard time.
Mike, I'm not gonna lie, bro. I sat up here. You can ask Tony. I sat up here for a long time. I'm just thinking. I'm calling out.
It's just the Rams, bro. It's just the Rams. To where I'm like,
it was close to the Bears, but I said, nah, I can't do that with Mike. I can't do that. And then it was close to the Cardinals. I said,
we don't want you here, bro. We don't want
you guys to be
We
insufferable.
need positive energy over here.
I said, I can't do that with Jay. So, but you know what? At the end of the day, hey, I'm sticking with my decision. I'm just, I can't the Mara family. I've had suspicions over some quite time.
Yeah.
Just like Joe mentioned, with the Black Lives Matter thing that popped up a few years ago. I remember those comments by John Mara. But I kind of let those slip. But now it's coming back away because you know what? Like Maya Angelou said, so someone shows you who they are, believe them, and that's who they are.
Yep.
I mean,
it's a mess.
until I'm proven otherwise, and I just pray, and this is my last thing to end it. I just pray that people in this world get a clean heart, change the way they think, how they talk, and how they react.
Yeah,
that's just how I feel.
Yeah,
Dustin brought up a really good point. Lovie Smith was one of the Bears' most successful coaches, African-American. Dennis Green with Minnesota. Let's not forget Arizona, too. African-American. Ray Rhodes in Philly. I mean, we've seen this. We've seen, again, you were critical of the Raiders, but the Raiders hired the first black coach in the modern NFL. If you take out Fritz Pollard and the guys back in the 20s, but it's like, how do we get here? Well, the problem is when we don't hold it at the forefront and we think things are okay, then that's when things slip backwards. Right. And we're always like, that's weird. Only one black coach was hired this cycle. Well, I'm sure they'll be hired next time. And then we just move along our way and root for the 17 weeks or now the 18 weeks and move things along until something like this happens. And we're like, well, wait a minute. You know what? It is true. There is only one black head coach. And wait a minute. It is true. Why do we have, all these issues? So again, it's happening right in front of our faces, and we either don't realize it or choose to accept it. And both are problematic.
I love Lovey. I was a Lovey guy. But Lovey fought with every single offensive coordinator he ever had. And he had like 7 in 7 years. So there was a lot.
Sounds like Brian Flores.
Yeah. And that's where it's like, it's just a defensive coordinator thing, I think, at times. But at the end of the day, free Lovey, free Brian. I'm not
gonna lie, Mike, because I was really excited about the ball hire. I really was. I was excited about the GM they got and everything.
Hey, you saw his interview. It was fun. He was a fun guy.
Yeah, but this just put a real sour taste in my mouth. I mean, I'm sitting back, doing an interview with a new guy to bring us to the network, and I'm showing this to Philip, and literally the bad taste in my mouth, and I'm like, bro, really? Like, are we really like? Are you serious?
Right.
And I'm like done. I'm like,
No, yeah, I don't blame you. I think it's definitely something that's not something to me. And being a former player, I think I've heard it before. I've heard players say, former teammates of mine say very racist things or very out of pocket things. And of course, your coach or your ownership of whoever owns that franchise is going to have them sit up on a podium and apologize to everybody in the room. But at the end of the day, like, what's up and you know what it is. And like, I've sat there thousands of times sitting there listening to some kid, whether it's racism or not, give this half-ass apology that they're probably going to give, or this half-ass reason to why they did what they did. And at the end of the day what it was, and that if they never got caught and if Bill Belichick never sent that message, that they would have went about their day and it would have been perfectly fine, and you wouldn't be having these problems right now. So shout out to Bill Belichick for not only, again, going up against the Giants, but single-handedly destroying them. But it's something to where you do, in all seriousness, look at it, though. And Freddie, I don't blame you for leaving, because whatever they come up with, whatever little speech they type up tonight and whatever spiel they read off of a board, like it's bullshit. And if you didn't get caught, you wouldn't have said anything about it.
Freddie, can I ask you one more question? Because you're very critical of the Rooney Rule, as we've talked about. What do you think of the rule now that teams are awarded third-round compensatory picks for the hiring of minorities into executive positions? We saw Denver will get 2 picks. I believe Minnesota will now get 2 picks with their hire. Also, I believe Chicago with Ryan Poles, they'll also get third-round compensatory picks.
To be fair, we actually hired Ryan. So
no. I'm saying, but in Minnesota, I'm saying in Minnesota they also hired one. But what I'm saying is, and again, I'm not debating whether it's. I want your opinion on it. You have a problem with the Rooney Rule and forcing teams to interview minority candidates. I mean, obviously it's flawed, needs improved upon. But what is your thinking of awarding draft picks to teams for hiring minorities?
And Freddie, does that to you, like, just to piggyback off it for another question, does that to you just scream how much racism there truly is that we're giving picks away? Just
we have to reward for you doing the right thing. I mean, just hire somebody that's credible. It don't matter if he's white, don't matter if he's black, don't matter if he's Hispanic. It don't matter if he's credible and his resume has what it takes to get a job. Hire him. Right. I mean, there should be no way. Kenny said this best on Real Talk last night. It should be no way where Kellen Moore and you have Eric Bieniemy and Kellen Moore have a better chance of getting a head coach than Eric, who's been in a Super Bowl, 2 Super Bowls, who's been to the game. So you shouldn't have to offer a draft pick to hire a guy. See, that's the problem. So
right.
That just breaks my nerves.
It screams to you how racist the league is, though, is that I have to award you a cookie just to go play with a kid. You know what I mean? Like that's at the end of the day where it screams to me is how much of a problem it really is. And that's why, like, the Denver thing, I want the tapes. I want to hear, because I imagine, this is just me, I imagine every interview is recorded. I would like to I would like to think, but I promise you Denver's burning the tapes right now, and they probably hired Nate to hack into the NFL system to fix that. Nate,
you know what, Mike? They hired Jay-Z because people was complaining about the halftime shows, the music, and all that stuff. Well, you know what? They want to make a change. Hey, these interviews, let's record them. I'm not gonna say Jay-Z
record every interview. And I would like to see the difference between the interviews. Like, how is your approach with Brian Flores, and how are the questions you ask Brian Flores different between you and Brian Dable? Was it a 2-hour interview versus a 5-hour interview? Was it going in depth about his personal life, or was it going in depth about the schemes that he would want to be running? A lot of people just ask questions to get you in and get you out, just like that. But, obviously, if you're making the hire, you're going to go in for that second interview, that third interview. But with Brian, to have one interview that was probably an hour or 2 hours long, or for the Bears case, not that it was a racist thing because Brian Dable's white. The owners of the Bears are white, so it's not racist. But for this example, if the Bears had interviewed Brian Flores over a Zoom call, the same way they interviewed Brian Dable over a Zoom call, I think you're having the same situation to where it's like you couldn't even invite this guy to come in. You couldn't even speak to Eric Bieniemy in person. Like, that's to me where it's like we need to hold this to the same standard that every interview needs to be the same. Every process needs to be the same. Now, you don't have to bring them back for a second one, but I need those same questions to be answered. That same energy is reciprocated.
Yeah, but gentlemen, we spent enough time on this. I'm pretty sure more shows today on here going to talk about it. So let's not beat the dead horse. I just had to come out here to vent my frustration because.
Oh, wait, really quick. How do you truly feel about Daniel Jones now that you're free?
I still like Daniel Jones, man. It's gonna be hard not to watch him because I do like Daniel Jones.
That's bullshit. That's bullshit. You know it.
Hey, the good news is we know Freddie has a Rams hat laying around his house somewhere because he's got something for every team. He roots for everybody.
No, I only root for one team.
Tell me how you really feel, Freddie.
So Super Bowl, here we come.
Oh man.
Ain't no way, bro.
But hey, man, it just rubbed me the wrong way, bro. Just like it.
No, yeah, I get it. I get it.
It's just, I don't know, man.
The Miami one is the only one I have a problem with. Like that's to me where it's like you got $100,000. Like I wouldn't say anything about it, but
hey Eric,
the integrity.
6:30 Central tonight. Keeping it real. We'll talk about it on there. ASAP in the morning, 9 a.m. Central. We'll talk about Brady on there. Just Say the Truth tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central. Many of our shows, I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about Brady.
In all seriousness, Brian stole Tommy Boy's shine today. Like, no one seems to care. Everyone's like, yeah, Tom, we already knew that. Brian Flores. Like, that's like the main – I love it. No, but I love it because I really thought, when Tom announced that, I was like, oh, well, this Brian Flores stuff came at the worst time because everyone's going to be talking about Brady. Everyone's going to be talking about the Super Bowl. And it's not. And I love the energy everyone's having. And I love that we're having these conversations because I thought it was going to get swept under the rug because that's what's, like Freddie said with the Black Lives Matter stuff with the Giants. Like, it got swept under the rug very quickly. Everyone was mad for 5 seconds and forgot about it. Yeah. And now I'm happy that we're in a point where that shit's not going away until there's going to be a change.
Yeah.
Well, Ben Roethlisberger had his shine stolen from Tom Brady, who had his shine stolen from Brian Flores. Now all it's going to take is Bill Belichick to resign as head coach of the New England Patriots, and then everything will be complete.
Yeah, but hey, Eric, so Eric, I'm sorry, I'm screwing your name up. Make sure you subscribe. Yeah, so make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. You get the notification when we go live. You can catch us. We have a lot of great content over here, and that goes for everybody that's watching us. Follow us, subscribe to us, and share it out. You can see my brother Mike over here on a lot of ASAP shows. He's over there. Mike on the mic, and all that good stuff. So look for him. Joe right here at the bottom. You can catch him on Who's Your Huddle. So just check us out here at the ASAP Network. I had to get my vent out. It's out. Go Rams. Hey, we're out of here.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. We talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the name.